Hello, everyone. As I promised before, I'm going to do a pre-recording and post this to announcements, as well as send this to you on Monday before we actually have our open hours tomorrow. So I wanted to do this just to kind of do a review of what we're going to be doing this week. So welcome. We are going to be continuing with our newsletter design this week. Hopefully you guys submitted your 2 pages last week so that you're not doing double work this week. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to add on the additional article that we did not use last week for the next 2 pages for this week. So also don't forget, we're going to be discussing building blocks of visual design. And that's the first thing that you'll see in here. So you want to click on this to start the discussion, read through the prompt. And then as we go down here, you're seeing it in my view, so it's going to be a little different on my end. You will come down to the newsletter for week 4 folder, and just make sure that you're also checking the week 4 assignment list. I had posted this in announcements, and it's basically the same list we looked at last week, applying it for this week. So go ahead and click on your newsletter 4. It's basically going to tell you exactly what we went over last week, just adding on to your 2 pages. So making sure that we are doing this in InDesign only. You're going to add the second article to pages 3 and 4. Place images for second article. So you have a minimum of 2 that you're going to use, maximum of 3, no more. Create a table of contents on page 1. We're going to have to kind of move things around for that, which is fine. And then obviously we're going to be adding on to our master pages, which is parent pages, is what they recalled them now. They had renamed them. We're going to just be mindful of our margins and columns, and also paragraph styles. And I went over this in a lecture last week. If you missed that lecture recording, please review that. I showed you how to set up paragraph and character styles. Tells you kind of what to avoid as far as a typeface and the point size to stick to for a good ratio. Title, paragraph, and bullet list should be included in your second and third pages here as well. Default colors cannot be used, so you want to define a color theme. A color theme is basically a color theme that will be used throughout your articles. You can use 2 different color themes for each article. It doesn't have to be the same throughout all 4 pages. So for the first 2 pages, it should look unified. And then the third and fourth page should look unified. 2 different articles should be unified together. Don't forget to spell check each article before placing them in. Make all necessary revision notes in week 3 feedback, which I have not gotten to your revisions yet. So I will be getting you guys feedback on those as soon as possible. When you get that feedback from me from last week, go ahead and make those changes. And then obviously package your InDesign file. That includes the high quality PDF. I'll show you how to do that. And then I did show you how to create a packaged folder last week as well. You'll be doing the same this week. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. And I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to go into my InDesign file that we ended on last week. So this is basically my first page, and then this is my second page. So we didn't have page 3 or 4 done yet, but I did show you how to set up your page numbers, your character styles, and your paragraph styles. Those are important steps. So if you missed that, please go back and listen to that. The only revision that we're going to have to do, and this is going to might be significant because you're going to have to push some of this information in. So this is kind of acting like a real world experience here, where you're getting changes from your client, and this client is saying, we want a contents page on the front. So you're going to have to shift some things around. So that's kind of like your real world task experience here, where, you don't usually get all the instructions in order all the time when you're working as a designer. Sometimes, for instance, I've had in my experience a lot of advertisers pulling ads at the last minute or adding in ads at the last minute. So when you're doing that, you have to shift things around as well within your pages. So this is kind of acting like a real world scenario here. All right, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and open up my newsletter folder. And these are the assets that were given to you in the beginning with the article and image folder. Okay, and the article that I started with was communicating through the design process. So number 2 will be my, article number 2 will be my 3rd and 4th page. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So again, in your newsletter assets folder, you should have 2 articles written in Word. Number 2 is called an unhappy client, and this is my 2nd and 3rd page articles. Also in there are your images in that folder, images folder. Remember how we talked about spell checking before we place that in there. So go ahead and, do your spell check, fix anything that needs to be fixed. And they actually do it really easily here. You just can click on the words that have that red underline to make sure that it's spelled correctly. Okay, it's paid for the time you spent. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then you can save that if you want. I'm going to do a select all, which is Command A on a Mac, and then Command C as a copy. And I'm going to go back to my InDesign article. And I'm going to click on page 3, and this is where my articles start. So I'm going to take the type tool, and I'm just going to go ahead and click and drag a very big type box. And I'm going to move this around anyway. So as long as it meets from one margin to the other, I'm good. Command V will paste it. And you remember how we created the character styles and the paragraph styles before? This is where it comes in very handy. So select all with Command A. We'll select all of your copy, even though it's going beyond this copy box. What we want to do is we want to go into your paragraph styles and we want to click on body copy. And what that's going to do is basically keep that very consistent with your first article that you have in here. So all of the body copy looks consistent. The only thing that we need to go in here is actually just change the subhead. So how to do that is go ahead and click over and take your type tool, click on top and highlight that first, just the subheads. And we're going to go to no paragraph on your paragraph styles. And then we're going to go to subhead on your character styles. Okay, and it's very important that you go to it's very important that you just hit basic paragraph for that at first, because what's going to happen is if you don't, it's going to assign it, and I'll show you here real quick. If you don't click on basic paragraph and then click on subheads, it's going to assign it that indent that we don't really want. So you don't really want your subheads to have an indent because that's the start of your paragraph. So, it kind of looks kind of funny if you have that indent there. Plus, we want to keep it consistent with your other subheads. And there we go. That looks pretty good. All right. So at this point, you can change the color of your type. If you did, like say, for instance, if you change the color of your subheads, you would actually have to create another character style for that. So what you would do, for instance, if you wanted to change, let's say, to red, we're going to go ahead and click subheads. We're going to copy this. So just go ahead and do a plus new style. And we're going to name this subheads article 2. And it should be basically the same since it's already set in our the first character style. The only thing we need to change here is the color. So we'll do like the red color. And then you will have to go throughout and choose the article 2 character style in order to make that change happen, because right now it's on that green subhead character style setting. Okay. So you can change it. You just have to change your character style so that it's consistent. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at all the images provided in our folder. And I'm just going to share my screen so you guys can see everything. So these are the newsletter assets. This is the articles I was just showing you. So article 2 is what we're doing, and then your images. And we use some of these images for article 1. So make sure you're not repeating those. Okay, so maybe that one. And then it said a maximum of 3. Okay, so those are the 3. So let's go back to our article. And what you would do is just go ahead and read the article so that you have a good idea in the sense of how to lay this out. Okay. And then what you can do, and what we're going to actually do is we can pull this. You have to decide on kind of like a good grid structure that you want to do. So let's pull this down here. Let's say you want to do like a bigger image on top. And I'm just going to use the rectangle frame tool. And it's going to take about just a part of this. So I would say like 4 inches. And I can adjust this too. I'll put that little unhappy, it's kind of a cool image. Go up to object, fitting, fill frame, so it fills it. And then double click in there if you need to kind of pull it around. Width-wise, it's gonna set it perfectly for the width, so it won't be able to do anything on this side. But up and down, you can use your arrow keys on your keyboard and pull this down and up, depending on how you want to do it. All right, and then we don't really have, do we have a headline? Let's see. No, we don't. So why don't we do this? Why don't we set this as the headline? Because we don't really have a set headline here. So we're going to hit headline. The only thing is, this is still that green color. So I'm going to hit headline, and then I'm going to hit, duplicate in my character styles. And I'm just to do the same here, headline 2. And I'm just going to change that color to that red. So I keep it consistent with my subheads. Okay. All right. And then what we can do is we can, obviously this line length is too long. It would be too hard to read lengthwise. We might lose our spot because the line length is too long. Remember how we said 72 characters, which are per letter, is a good ratio to keep this at. So we really want to split this up into maybe 2 or 3 columns. So with that type box selected, we're going to go up to type. I'm sorry, we're going to go up to object. I always want to go to type. Go up to object, text frame options, and we're going to choose for our columns. I'm going to let's do 3 columns. Yeah, but that's completely up to you if you want to do 2, 3, whatever you want to do. Now, it's up to you if you want to do a headline like this, although I would fix the break here. Or if you want to pull this out completely, copy, paste, I'm going to copy and delete this out. Just the headline, and then set this in its own box. So I would just kind of pull out a text box and set it in its own box. If I wanted, different treatment here. And then you can kind of place this anywhere you want, pull this down. Okay. All right. So now what we have to do is we want to make sure that we have copy still here. You can see the lower right-hand corner here. It's that red little box saying, hey, we have more copy, but my box isn't big enough. So what we want to do is we want to link this box to a box down here, which is our 4th page. So click off of that, take your type tool and just go ahead and draw just a regular type box here with that selected. Go ahead over here, click on the page number 3 and that little red box. Go ahead, click 1 time on it, just right on top of the red box. Pull your cursor down and click right into your box that you just created. So what that's going to do is anytime you fix this, so let's say we want to make that image bigger and pull this down, that's just going to flow your copy into this box here, which is kind of nice. Okay. So I can kind of play around with this if I want to more of the image to show or, what have you. play around with this. All right. So that's how you do that. Now, but the only thing is we have to make sure that this is kind of flowing in a good way. And we have a couple other pictures that we want to place. So what I'm going to do is I kind of want to try to set the grid up here, kind of similar to up here is what I have with this, maybe the line hitting here where I would have maybe an image on this side, and that's keeping it kind of a cohesive grid structure there. So maybe I'll put an image that's full size here, and I have an actual long one that might fit really well in there. Let's see how it'll fit. Yep. Not too bad, but the only thing is I can't see the person in here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to pull this down. And we're going to make this just a little smaller. Maybe keep that same kind of width. Let's see if we can play around with this. Kind of keep that same frame. Maybe pull this out just a little bit more. Actually, that would work. So I'm pulling out just a little bit more. And then this box I would pull in, and I don't have to make any adjustments to this because this line length is fine in regards to, you know, how long the lines of text are. The only thing is make sure you have enough white space in between this image and your copy. And I think what I'm going to do here, I'm going to copy and paste. And I'm going to make this that red color. Okay, just figure out how I can, you know what? Let me see if I can find maybe a better picture that would fit in here better. This might be the only one. Okay, or you know, you could probably do multiple pictures in here. That actually might work too, where you're kind of adding in these pictures down here, kind of like what we did up here. Actually, you know what? Let's do that. I'm going to copy. I'm going to paste these in here. Kind of like what we did here. Where are these at? These can be at the same. If I go up to properties, if I go to window, properties, and I selected these two, I can see where these are placed on my X and Y coordinates. So this is set at 1 inch by 1.5. So if I wanted to set these at the exact same position, I could just shift select just these two and do 1 and 1.5. And that will set exactly where these are set. Now all I need to do is just go Command D, and I can fix the pictures in here to be the ones that I want to use. Object fitting, if it's not fitting properly, there we go, perfect. Same thing with this, you know, if I want to see the size of this text box, just go ahead and click on that, go to your properties. You can see the width and the height being shown here. So we know that, like, you know, if you want to keep that consistent, that's the same width. Okay. Same thing here. We can kind of keep this consistent if you want. It's kind of different. I mean, it's a different color, but you're keeping some of the same colors or shapes. We're just changing the color of these parts here. And I think I'm going to pull this up just a little bit because I want my page to show. I'm going to pull it right around here. So you might do some adjustments like what I'm doing here, especially because we're going to be changing this a little bit because we have to put that contents folder on. Okay, so just make these changes, pull this down. Okay, that looks good. All right, we'll need more space anyway, because we need to put a contents page on here. All right, so let's go ahead and do the contents page because I can kind of all fix this. Actually, you know what? Let me bump this down. I'm going to fix the. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm bumping this down because I want to fill this space up a little bit more here. That looks pretty good. Plus, I had some weird breaks going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this down. Oop, what am I doing? I pulled my copy box down. I want my headline to be somewhat close to that so that it reads together. And then I'll just try to make this bigger. There we go. Maybe even a little bit bigger. Looks good. Okay, and then again, just make sure that you are checking your, if there's any weird breaks or widows, that looks pretty good. Go to this page, that looks pretty good. I do have a widow here. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that. Let me zoom in. And I'm going to try it right before the is, do a soft return here. Oh, that kind of weird makes my other sentences weird. So I'm going to try maybe a shift return where my U is. That's a little bit too much. Let me just see if I can just break this down. I'm trying to do it where it's a little, let me see here. I don't want to change anything here. Bring down there. I have my hyphen, but that's not too bad. I think that works. I'm going to do this same thing here. This is kind of sitting on its own. Okay, that looks pretty good. As long as I don't have a ton of hyphens, I think I'm good. All right. Now, with that being said, that looks pretty good. I have my 3 images. I don't have any more. Let me hide my guide so you guys can see what this looks like. Overprint preview. So it looks pretty good. You can add elements too. Like say, for instance, you wanted to add some of these elements to keep it. Let's see. I want to add this kind of like this line up here under the image. And you can do that. So, add your design elements that you think will work for this. Just make sure you have enough space in between your images, your image and your type. You want the headline to be a little closer to the copy, and everything looks very aligned as far as your baselines and consistent. Okay, I'm going to save this. This looks good. Now we have to do the table of contents. This is going to be the trickier part. Now, table of contents typically can be seen on the left side of a newsletter. It depends. But, it's not typically just on the top. You kind of have to do some research, maybe take a look at other newsletters and see where their table of contents are. For my table of contents, I'm going to, and it should be small, so it's not going to affect this too much. I'm going to have it where it's just this, it's going to be affecting this area here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this to, I'm going to go up to type. I'm sorry, object, I always get that text frame options. I'm going to set this to 2 instead of 3. And I'm going to pull this in to about here. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this image over just so that I can figure out how I'm going to do my table contents. All right, so the table contents should be, and I could probably do this one too. Let's go ahead and I'm going to need a little bit more room here. I'm going to do 1 column of type. I'm going to pull this over to meet with this. So the headline should be with, and the intro copy should be aligned with whatever you have going on here. I'm going to go ahead and pick a shape. I'm going to do a rectangle. Let me view my guides so I can bring my guides here. Okay, now I'm going to do like a box, and it shouldn't be a huge box. You can make it solid. You can change the a solid color. It doesn't even have to be a solid color. It could just have like a border on it too. So just kind of think about how you're going to do this. So you can just do a border. We could do something where maybe this is filled with white inside so that it's kind of overlapping our color back here. That might be kind of nice. And I'm going to align it to our margins here. Okay. And then typically in the table of contents, go ahead and draw a copy box, text box. Make sure you have margins, so you don't want to have it too close to your border, your trim edge. Table of contents. Now we don't have this typed for you, so you're going to have to do this typing, and so really kind of make sure you're spelling this correct. We're going to go and let's see, where's my character styles? There we go. We're going to go ahead and make this a new character style, because this isn't a lot of words, so it's kind of like a subhead. So we're going to go ahead and name this table of content subhead. And then we can set, what we want our characters to, or our actual font to be. I want to kind of keep it consistent with my subheads. So with that being said, I can't remember what this is called. My font lobster. Okay. I want to change it to that lobster. So I want to set my basic font family to that same lobster font and see how it's changing it. And if I ever want to edit it, I can just double click on it. And I'm going to set this to, set it to like maybe 18. And I'm going to set it to that green color. Table of contents. All right. And then I'm going to kind of set it so that it's left aligned, which is fine. And then you kind of have to think about what your article names are. So for this first article, let's pull this down so I can see what this is called. Communicating throughout the design process. That's the first article. And you can copy and paste this too throughout the design process. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set this to be let's see, no. I'm going to give it a paragraph style because it's going to be longer than than a headline. So table of contents, body copy, I'm going to make a paragraph style. And I shouldn't do Minion Pro. Let me see what is my copy set at? Baskerville regular. So I want to keep it consistent. So I'm going to do Baskerville. And we'll do semi-bold. I'm going to do 10 by 14 leading. And for this one, let's see, I'm going to choose tabs. And why I'm going to choose tabs is because we have to put a page number on here, right? Because this is the table of contents. So as I hit tabs, we're going to apply a right justified tab where the page number will align on the right-hand side. Okay. So we kind of want to fit it in this, see how it goes to 2 inches? That's where our box is. So we want to kind of fit it in this 2-inch area. So we're going to say 2 inches. And with that being said, I'm going to make this just a little smaller. It's a lot. And click OK. Before I click OK, let me go back to that. Let me highlight this again. Go to tabs again. I forgot to add something on here. So pull your tab in there. And see where it says leader? We're going to put a dot in there, like a period. And I'll show you what what happens when you do that, and click OK. So when you put that leader in, return here. When your tab is set as your style, place your cursor at the end of process and hit tab and then your page number. So the tab will put in that leader, that dot, dot, dot that we set that tab at. Pretty cool. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to put the next article in here, which we really don't have that many articles. So it would be an unhappy client, what can I do? And that starts on page 3, remember? So maybe we can make this table of contents a little smaller. Go ahead and set that. And luckily I have my table of contents. I'm going to set that to basic. And then we want the subhead. Oh, sorry, none. Table of contents, subhead. Oh no, we don't want the subhead, sorry. None, we want the body copy. There we go. We have to put like an extra space in between here. And I would put like a soft return there, which is a shift return. And then what we're going to do is hit tab again, and we're going to start this on page 3. See how that just aligned really nicely there? Because I have the tab set properly. I'm going to kind of center this a little bit. So really that's all the table contents that we have. If this was a bigger newsletter, obviously this would be bigger. So now that I know that, we can make this box really small. It doesn't have to be as big. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of keep it smaller here. And you don't have to use white. If you wanted to like maybe make this pop, you could. And you would have to change this in your paragraph styles. Select your copy, double click, go into your color. Not your character color. Yeah, character color. And we want to do paper, and that just makes it white. Same thing here. Double click on your paragraph style, and we want to change that to white. And that's just if you want to do something, where it's really kind of pulling that out. It's a little bit more pronounced. This is a really small table of contents, but you got, it's a table of contents. So we'll just show you how to do that. And that's pretty much it. You can add extra details in this. Like say if you wanted to do maybe like a cute little border. That's like a white border in here that kind of just highlights a little bit, makes it look a little prettier. You can do something like this. Just make sure it's equal on all sides. Okay, you can do something like that. Now I can kind of redo this part up here. I can actually bring this back to my 2 columns because I didn't really need to take up all that space. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to 2 columns. It's a good learning process here. And we have to bring this up anyway because I'm missing copy. So now the only thing we really need to adjust is, see here. The copy here. I'm going to pull this to the left a little bit. It's a little bit close. Not as it is, you can get a little closer to this. Just have enough space next to your table of contents where it's not getting super, super close. And what's nice is we have enough room here. See how that kind of nicely filled up that area there, where it doesn't look odd. Okay, so that's kind of what's nice. But This is actually what happens in a real world experience with like things that come in last minute. The only thing we have here is our image, but we can kind of play around with this. We don't necessarily have to have this on this first page either. We can even make this smaller and have it over here, or have it over here, or even start it over here. And it looks like we already have this image used, so we might not even need it. Let me delete that off totally. And we actually used it up here too, so that would be using it 3 times. And then what I could do is I could center this in here, if I wanted to make it kind of look a little bit more centered in this area. Play around with it. So there's no real, I can't say, hey, do it like this exactly. I want you guys to give your newsletter your own personality and style. But I just want to give you some tips and tricks on what you can try and what to kind of be aware of and what you can do to make this look more appealing. You can also, if you wanted to, do something fancy, you could add your images in here too, just real small. So for instance, if we had a lot of room, which usually in a table of contents, you don't really have a ton of room because typically you're dealing with, a lot of information. You got this one. It's just a nice design element that you could maybe fit 3 in here. Just make sure that they're all the same size and all aligned. Shift selecting all of these together and going up to your object and layout will help you align this perfectly so that they're evenly distributed in between each other, and also, on the same baseline as well as in between. So make sure that you are taking advantage of that. And then you can go in here and change, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Select the actual one that you want to change, and then go ahead and file place. You might need to do a new fitting fit proportionately again if it doesn't fit, because some of these are different sizes, different orientations. So that's why it's needed. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So then you can add some little bit of extra texture there, I guess you could say, a little extra exciting stuff there. It's not just copy. All right, so yeah, just adding in that table of contents doesn't have to be huge. So you're really only shifting a little bit there on that page, and just make sure you have enough where it's ending on page 2. And then page 3 is where the new article will appear. And just make sure you're paying attention to line length and alignment. You're paying attention to hierarchy, and then also how, how it all unifies. I'm using the same, square structure here. I'm just changing the color for the second article. So that's keeping it unified, but then the 2 articles are definitely looking different. I wouldn't think, reading these 2 articles, they would be the same or connected, and they might be, but, just kind of giving that nice little separation because it's a separate topic will let the viewer know, hey, we're reading this different article here. Okay. All right. So you're going to save this as part 2, which I think no, I didn't save as part 2. We're going to put this on the desktop. Okay. And then remember how we did the package? We need to package it again. So file package. And you can go in here and check out all the settings and hit package. And when you're done on the desktop, and FYI, we want to change this to high quality print. We didn't do that before. We're going to do that because say this is ready to go for print. Go ahead and select PDF high quality print, package, and then that you're going to zip it once you're done with this. I'll show you how to do that. And I showed you how to do this in the last lecture, but I'll do it again. Let's see. All right, so this is the folder we just packaged. I'm going to open it because I want to make sure my PDF looks good. Okay, there's my first, second, third, and fourth. Looks good. So if it looks good, then what we're going to do is we're just going to compress this. So File, Compress. And this is the folder that you're going to submit for your second part of this project. Okay. So yeah, just, keeping in mind your paragraph and character styles. Make sure everything's consistent. I want to make sure that all your body copy is the same, even in both articles. It should be the same style, the same point size. Make sure your alignments are good. You have, it's easy to read. The line lengths are good. Everything's aligning and everything is consistent and unifying. Your spacing is good. And then also you're applying your page numbers correctly. So if you missed that, I showed you how to create page numbers using parent pages. I also posted a how-to video and announcements too after posting the lecture video. So if you need to check that out, you can. And then also don't forget, whatever changes and feedback I give you this week, which I'm going to get to soon, make those changes to your first and second pages. But before you get that, start your page 3 and 4 article. All right. I hope this helps, and I'm looking forward to reviewing all of your work.